morning. Good morning, America, and to our friends around the world, routine. I've got to reload the water silo after I clean it up, and reload the seed silo. Grab the cat some food, and reload the washing machine basin so that it can start cleansing cycle. Got up a little late this morning. It's already 6:20. Just a little piece of trivia. Apparently the Declaration of Independence was originally supposed to be signed today instead of Friday.
Welcome back, tribe. I have an episode here from My Retired Life. A small channel here, you got 500,000 views. It just says simply 5 things you should never tell anybody. Get into it.
We are going to take a little... Hello and welcome to My Retired Life. Today we are going to take a little walk down a path, and we're going to talk about 5 things. 5 or 6, probably 5. 5 things that you should never, ever tell anybody about. And they're all personal, and people don't need to know about it. The very first thing is regrets. Never, ever, ever tell anybody about your regrets. We all have them. They're all bad memories, right? A regret is not a good thing, in most cases. They're always a bad decision, generally. Why do people have to know about your bad decisions? I've made bad decisions. I have some regrets. Do you need to know about them? No. Plus, regrets you remember as bad days, right? They're the worst, generally, days of your life. Why do you want to remember those? Learn from them, but don't remember them. Don't pass them on to somebody else. They will think differently of you. They will judge you. You don't need to be judged. Number 2.
Like this is like an old man walking in the woods, sharing absolute wisdom.
Your pain. Don't share your pain with everybody. Your wife, your immediate family, but that's it. Everybody does not have to know all about your pain. Regrets, kind of like the same, but a little different. Your body aches one morning. They don't want to hear that. Their body aches too, especially in the retirement age. Everybody's got pain and health issues, generally. Whether it's high blood pressure, some people need knee operations, other people need hip operations, other people have cancer. Pain is another thing that you don't want to share. Again, keep it within your family. And your friends, you really have to know that you're in pain. You can't go over to their house to a pool party because your knee is messed up, or...
It's the boy who cried wolf. That is how it comes across. You know, those individuals who it's a catastrophe, it's a disaster, any moment in their life, and it doesn't matter what levels of assistance you provide them or how much of an ear you're willing to lend them. It's unrelenting. It's dangerous to be around that, not in a physical sense per se, but in a well-being sense for yourself. Because that chaos has a way of infecting you also.
You know, something like that, you don't. Just pass on the party and move on. Number 3, resentments. Never share your resentments to somebody. It just leads to gossip. If you resent somebody, just cut them out of your life slowly if they're close, or just cut them out of your life. Resentments are, again, negative thoughts. People don't want to hear all these negative thoughts about you, your resentments. I resent this person. Why does somebody else have to know that? That's just leverage to gossip, really, and talk about things. You know, just let things go, and you'll be much happier. Resentments are not a thing that anybody should hold on to, really. I resent a lot of things. Can I change them? No. Can you?
I think that's a huge trap what poor people have. The resentments, the crabs in a bucket mentality, and the lack of abundance. They have this mentality of, I hate what happened to me. I wallow in the past, and I can never move forward. I can't even enjoy the present, and they get stuck with it. I'm notice this mentality split between, wealthy and the poor. That the poor stay stuck in the past. They always hang on to, like literally with their teeth, the skin of their teeth, hanging on to all their problems, all the ways they've been wronged in life, and like that's the focus mentally for them. And rich people just discard bad experiences, resentments, shit like that, and then they shift focus onto the future. Okay, well, this already happened to me, can't change it, everything's in the past. What's the point of rummaging on it? Ruminating on things that I can't change, I can't go back in time, so it doesn't matter. Boom. And then they move forward. And then they think about things that could actually change, like their behavior today, or their habits today, or plans for the future. Like that's really all you can do is the daily habits you have now. If you track them, you can find out where you'll end up in the future. It's that simple. You eat like shit. You don't get good sleep, right? You put bad food in your body, all the things. You don't exercise. You're constantly drinking or smoking or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you can use that as a predictor for where you'll be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, what you may look like, what health issues you may have. That's what that is. Now, and that causes you anxiety if you live only in the future also, and like worried about what has to happen, or if I finally have this thing, I'm just waiting on something. But the resentment thing he's talking about is people that live in the past of like, I resent what happened to me. They constantly replay events in the back of their head. And if you know that the brain can't tell between real and imagined, there's this book, it's called Psycho-Cybernetics for the new people here. If you haven't heard of it, I would highly recommend buying it and reading it. The brain is basically a machine that problem solves and recognizes patterns. That's it. Real or imagined, it doesn't know. There's a portion in the book, segment where he talks about somebody walking down a path in in a park or whatever, and they see the trees rustling, the leaves, everything, the bushes moving, a shadow forms, whatever. For a split second, you look at it and you think it's a bear. You think it's a bear, and you go into fight or flight. Everything. Your heartbeat goes up, adrenaline starts coursing through your body, right? Your muscles, they begin to swell with blood, preparing for fight or flight. A split second later, time passes, the trees rustle some more, wind blows, and you see the shadow was just a weird effect that you noticed that it wasn't actually a bear, and then you calm down again. Your reaction was as if the bear was real. It was true for a second. So your body went into the fight or flight. Physical changes were happening simply through thought. And resentment is the same thing. If you're constantly replaying negative things from your past, negative experiences, those memories that hurt, it's as if you're reliving them. What is the point of reliving a bad experience? If you had a bad experience, remember it, learn from it, move on.
Yesterday I took 2 of the chickens out. Yesterday morning, and then yesterday evening, and then as I was grabbing the seed silo and water silo, one of them decided to start walking up the gate that was open, so I took her outside, held her and let her look around for a little bit, but I had to get this silo because there's no water in it, and it's got crusties in the bottom that I gotta wash out.
Right? Clock that in the back of your head. Hey, don't make that mistake again. Don't trust that person again. Don't blah, 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 blah. Whatever it was that you experienced, don't allow yourself to be that vulnerable again. Whatever. And then move on. Because every time you replay what happened, you're replaying the pain. You're replaying the trauma. You're replaying the same negative emotions that kept you trapped and will keep you trapped until you let it go. As he said, you gotta learn to let shit go.
Change them if I tell you? No. So just let it go. Resentments aren't going to help you.
I just gotta say bravo to this dude. Look, he's got a small channel, guys, 25,000. It's so easy to get a little camera. Just look at what he's doing. He's just sharing life experience. The dude's retired. Literally. My retired life, as a picture here with his dog. He's got a 500,000 view video that he posted just a month ago. And he talked, it was a little over 10 minutes once you edit this down, of course. Took some time out of his retired day walking in a local park, which we all have. He did some cool shots that he'd probably seen from other YouTubers. They're very basic edits. Very basic. And he's earning money from this video alone. Dude, 10 minutes at 500,000 views, this is worth thousands of dollars in ad revenue alone. He's made thousands of dollars off this video. I think 1 million and it's around $5,000 to $7,000, 1 million view video. So he could have earned anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000, depending on, you know, the advertisers he ended up getting for this video. Finance is the niche that pays the most, and, you know, it depends on the niche that you get grabbed. But everybody else would have had to work a long-ass month to get the kind of money he just made off this video. Anything's possible today.
All right, you thirsty
so I
little
tell you,
ladies,
like being your own
there's
business,
some fresh water.
he's his own business right now. This is his own business. And so it's just sad to see the naysayers are like, well, not everybody can be business owners or self-employed. Who's going to do all the jobs? Bro, 99% of the people in this world won't even attempt it. You are in the 1% by just attempting to do this. It takes so little to separate yourself out from everybody. There's some people that are so, like, such worry words, so risk averse. I only invest in index funds. I only work 9 to 5. I need a steady paycheck. That's not for what he's doing isn't for those people. And if you don't have that need in you, or if you have a good job and a good boss and a good company, you're good. You're good. But if you need something more out of life, if you want more, if you think like there has to be more to life than this, why not do what this guy's doing? He's just bored and retired. The man's a workhorse. He probably wants to work and do something. So now he's employing his like creative side of him that he probably couldn't, because dude could have been a mailman.
There's a lot of people that are in that situation. I know 2 men. One that's a firefighter. The guy is a freaking beast. You'd look at him and you'd be like, oh, this guy's maybe $170. You know, scrawny, you know, kind of looking guy. But the guy is a forest firefighter. A few years back, fell like 50 or 100 feet, busted up his leg bad, was medically retired, and was going stir crazy. Rented a shop, started doing diesel mechanic stuff, you know, because it's one of his big passion hobbies. Another guy does refrigeration work 7 days a week. I've only seen him stay home, you know, what, 2 years ago, I saw on my camera, across the street, I was like, he's never home. And after 3 days, I was like, that's not right. Something's going on. So I went and checked on him, and he's like, no, it's January, not enough business. But otherwise, he goes stir crazy, you know, not being at the shop, you know, having that self-discipline to be doing. And as I've been encouraging everybody, find something. Learn to paint, learn to play the guitar, piano. I mean, those are things I've done. You can do something different. You don't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be busy work. It needs to be something that, at the end of the day, that you feel you have accomplished, that it's yours, not somebody else's. And that's the big negative about things such as television, movies, video games, or even just listening to music, is you're the consumer. You are, you know, taking in what you're participating in what somebody else has done. It's not even, it's similar to a job. The only difference is you're paying somebody else for the opportunity to give up your time. So why not use that time more productive and do your own creation? But I don't have any talent. That's because you haven't used the persistence to develop it, taken the classes, or, you know, read the books to acquire that skill. You're not going to be an expert at anything, but give it time. You will become more competent and confident. As long as you keep at it and keep learning at it and are open to criticism.
For like 30, 40 years. Got his pension, got out, and now he does what he's probably really wanted to do, just connect with people, share some wisdom about life experiences, travel, be in nature, walk around. Stuff like this is beautiful. It's just we're so caught up in the world today of naysayers, negativity, and all that shit. You'll see them in the comments. They'll do everything to disprove what this guy is doing, or business owners or entrepreneurs. They'll do everything they can just because they're stuck in the rut. They may have failed, or it's in shot to their ego directly. You're threatening their worldview. Because if you try to open up a business or become self-employed and you fail, then everybody must fail also. Solipsism. Your experience means it's everybody else's experience. It's really not true. Look at him. This is basic B-roll, bro. He set his camera down on a tripod and he just walked past it.
Number 4. And this is kind of one that I really believe in. And number 5 is the most crucial one. But number 4, don't tell everybody about your plans. Just quietly go and do it. Does that make any...
That's a big one. Don't talk about your plans. Because it's almost as if by vocalizing it, it sabotages it. It's almost as if by vocalizing it, it gives you the satisfaction of having made the effort as if you had already done it. Whether it's met with negativity or positive reinforcement to do it, it doesn't matter. It's that vocalization. Keep it tight to yourself, keep it close to yourself, and act upon it. Write it down and look at it. Remind yourself to stay focused. But if you're caught up in wanting to get praise or critiquing from others before you take steps, you're going to second guess yourself and never have the confidence to proceed in what it is you're attempting to do. Trial and error, experience. Those school of hard knocks are the best forms of education. And find a mentor. The old saying, a smart man learns from his mistakes, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. That's what books are for. That's what the training videos are for. That's what lectures and classes are all, apprenticeships are all supposed to do. Keep your plans to yourself. Write them out, flesh them out, look at them, read them. Remind yourself what it is that you're attempting to do. Decades ago, I was negotiating insurance for either my home or auto or both. And the woman that I was meeting with had stated the desire to buy a house. She had just bought a house, and her desire, was we need to delay. Telling her son, we need to delay. We can't go out to the fast food place. We're saving all of our money to buy this house. And then that goal was achieved. So I know that may seem like a weak example, but that was the only communication that was done, was to reinforce each other's dedication to that goal. So if you have a team that is focused on the same goal, that's fine. But the moment they're not part of that goal, cut them loose, move forward, and keep everything to yourself. You don't need any dead weight holding you down.
Sensed. I started this channel, nobody knew about it.
You see?
Still, many people I know don't know about it. And I'm fine with that.
Not for long.
They don't have to know about it. If they did know about it, maybe they would be scoffing at me for the idea that I could have a YouTube channel at 66 years old.
Bravo.
That I could be passing on advice to people from my experiences. My experiences only. And I'm just passing on stories and advice that I think is valuable.
And haters
You
will
can
hate.
take it or leave it. Anybody can. But do not pass on your future plans. Let's say you want to go on a trip and you're all excited about going to Japan, say, just out of the top of my head. So you want to go to Japan and ride the bullet train, that super fast train. And you tell somebody about it, and it never comes to fruition. If that's somebody that you...
Even if you're in the planning stage or it's an idea or you're about to go, like you already bought the ticket, someone will tell you, oh, that's stupid. Who would go to Japan just to see a bullet train? Oh, you're wasting a lot of money. It never ends, dude. Never ends. I've gotten resistance from close friends, from family, from everybody. Anybody you tell about what you're doing, your plans or goals, you'll get resistance. I tend to like it because I have the chip on my shoulder of I'll show you. I'll prove you wrong. Like, keep telling me I can't do this, and I'll fucking make it my life's goal to do the very thing you told me I can't do, and then I'll enjoy shitting on you while you watch the success. That makes me feel good. I was doubted on everything, bro. From starting my business in remodeling and construction, I was told don't do it. Especially don't do it on credit card debt. Especially when you have zero experience and you've never started a business. And you're going to fail because 99% of businesses fail. And didn't listen. Made $100K a month at 27 years old. Open your mouth wide to get a massive shit in there. Yeah? They told me if I would have listened to these people, I would have never made it. I would have been a company man, scrounging pennies together, begging my boss for fucking raises, or please let me get some comps, please let me get a percentage of the extra sales I give you, shit like that, but dealing with the same corporate bullshit that most people deal with, yeah? Then I was told the same shit for day trading. Oh my god, 99.9% of day traders, blah, 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 blah. Open wide and take the log in your mouth. That's what it is. Succeeded with that, turned $20,000, 19 technically, and some change, into 180 in 6 months. Managed to do it. Why? Because I dedicated my entire life. I became an absolute maniac about it. I was eating, sleeping, dreaming, breathing that shit. I mean, I would wake up at 3 a.m. because my charts would fire alerts, and I would have trades that I need to put in because the price moved at a certain direction, and or breaking news or shit like that. Made a ton of money, lost a ton of money. Then moved on to the next thing. Moved on to the next thing. YouTube's a perfect example. Same thing, guys. It was just an idea rummaging in my head. I was like, YouTube stuff. Maybe I could do something and talk to people and maybe inspire people. And I have some life experience. I've had a crazy, crazy life from a young age. And so I started doing videos 6 a day, and talking to friends and like covering random topics, from stupid videos that provided no value, just pure entertainment, to like, hey, here's my experiences with dating. Here's my experiences being a man. Here's the experience as a business owner. Here's what it was like navigating through life in this domain and that domain. Sure enough, it stuck. Somebody listened, somebody watched, somebody liked what I had to say. But if I would have listened to the very people that I even spoke this out, I'm thinking of doing this, they're like, bro, are you sure? Bro, why? You think people are going to listen? Damn, how do you even know how to edit a vid? I didn't know shit. I still remember, this is how bad it was, I still remember I had to go YouTube University. I'll never forget, dude, I had a crappy little laptop that it took forever to render a video, but Final Cut is the program I used to edit. Guys, I had to YouTube how to import a clip into Final Cut to even before starting the editing. How to pull a video clip into the editor. How do I export a video? What's the best I mean, we're talking zero experience with any of this. Just like everything else, I had absolutely zero experience when I started businesses, when I started dating, zero. And then I spent, like, honestly, I condensed, like, years of information into months, nonstop. I was watching for, like, 8 hours a day just on pure excitement of the potential of the future. I was, like, I locked in, bro, like, on fucking meth and shit. Just, I'm not getting up from my computer. I'm watching how-tos, 101s, you know, shit like that. Just people sharing videos like this when we're sharing information of how to do the most basic, mundane task. It took me days, bro, to do a basic edit that now takes me literally like 10 minutes to pump a video out, fully edited. It's crazy. I started from nothing. It feels like this. It's like you're way at the bottom of the mountain and the climb is just straight up, steep, vertical ascent. That's a normal feeling. Don't let that discourage you. And don't tell people these plans, because especially when you're moving into something you've never done before, bro, the pushback is crazy. The hate is crazy. The naysaying is crazy. The jealousy is crazy. And then only when you succeed, has happened to me and multiple, only when you succeed do you get your props. Only when you succeed do they eat crow and the mouth shuts. And
Richard Cooper says that women wait at the finish line, but it's not just women. It's your friends, your family, your former colleagues. They all will somehow form this worldview of how they were always pulling for you and always believed in you. But it was you that was doing the late nights, early mornings, 5 days, 7 days, pushing, pulling, doing it. They were nowhere to be found. They were either not checking on you or not answering your efforts to contact them to see, to check on their well-being. Yeah. that's something you have to get over. You have to just recognize who it was who genuinely was there for you, and those who play the part later. Those are the people that are going to do the Caesar in the Senate ending scene.
The logs stop dripping down their throat. Only then will they shut the fuck up. And once you do it so many times, then will they just be quiet? Oh, he just, whatever he does, he seems to succeed at. I don't know. He's built different. He's just different. They're still like, but not everybody can. But still, as a way to like scapegoat their ego. So they don't have to look in the mirror and go, well, I failed because I didn't put enough effort. I didn't try.
And he's absolutely correct. I said this before. With aviation, all my life I thought about, how fun it would be to learn how to fly an airplane. And I was always met with mockery, ridicule, by people who don't know how to fly. And in college, I met a girl who had flown, whose family was into aviation, and they were very encouraging of wanting to do that. Also, when I went into the military, that was the focus of my job, was training these pilots primarily, and secondarily was the flight crew members, the navigator, the engineer, along those lines. We had a variety of classes. We had training that focused on fighter jets, bombers, cargo aircraft, any vehicle that went above 18,000 feet. These people had to go through the training program, and it was a classroom lecture on physiology, the effects of altitude on the human body, what happens, how it happens. But what I learned was that these people, these pilots, as I've said before, they legitimately were not rocket scientists. Some of them may have been physics majors or rocket scientists, and signed up for UPT, which is what's called undergraduate pilot training. There's UPT, UNT, and it's just the abbreviation acronym for pilot training or navigator training. They call it undergraduate because you're not doing a doctoral master's training on it. You're doing, your bachelor of science or arts degree commissioned officer, and that's considered an undergraduate. Anyway, the reality was is that these people were not titans that were endowed with special abilities. They weren't from a far-off planet with a red sun that allowed them to get the funky high to fly. Nothing as exotic as that. All it requires is focus and the dedication to doing it.
Hard enough, shit like that. I'm not special. I'm not some I'm not some fucking magical creature with like a 1,000 IQ. I'm just a normal dude, just like you guys, that just put in extra effort to separate myself from the 99% and whatever I've ever tried doing. I'm not exceptionally talented. I'm not a genius in anything. I'm not naturally gifted at shit.
A few months ago, Clint Russell, the Liberty Lockpod host, who had been on Luke Rudowski's program last year, pretty much daily, and he made a post on X asking people who know how to play music, have you, and if you haven't, how come you haven't created original music? And it goes back to what Bo's talking about. I'm not the superstar. I'm not the 1,000 IQ guy. I learned how to play the music because it was a skill that I regretted not carrying on. I learned it in middle school, and I had to take a music thing in middle school. I detested music classes in elementary school, being forced to sing these ridiculous songs. The only one of substance is the Frere Jacques, because you could sing it in English or French, and that was neat, because you're like, oh, I know a little bit of French now, you know, the novelty aspect. That was it. I hated singing things like It's a Small World After All. It was all fluffy garbage, in my opinion. If you like it, have fun with it, enjoy it. But I didn't like being told what to sing. And I didn't like singing with a group. But I was required to take some kind of music thingy in school, middle school. And I saw that there was a semester of guitar. And I remember one of my classmates commenting, you know, that asking, do you practice a lot at home? And at first I was, middle school, we're all hypersensitive. We all think somebody's saying something negative, underhanded, or about ready to set us up. And I wasn't sure what he meant, but I was correct. I said, no, I just play here. Apparently, he was impressed because every time I was going in for a progress check, I was getting signed off on it. And I was doing well until I had to start incorporating timing. But if you've listened to any of the videos I've uploaded with my playing, I've done a better job now, 40-some years later, of incorporating the timing into my play. And it's critical. There was the Buffy the Vampire spin-off, Angel, and there was a character, Lorne, what they call him, Lorne Green, because he was green, and anyway, he was big into singing, and he said it's the silence, or something like that. It's the changing notes, and it's the silence which gives the song, the music, its meaning. And I thought that was pretty neat, because a sustained, he describes it as a sustained note is beautiful at first, but then it becomes annoying if that's all it is. It just becomes noise. Annoying, noise, similar words. Remember, symmetric, asymmetric, noise, annoying, so play off the linguistics there and recognize these things. But what his comment that was written into the show, I thought was enlightening. But Clint Russell had asked, how come people aren't creating more music? And that is something that I have noticed, is that there is not originality. But Socrates said ours was, something to the effect of ours was the last real generation. All these generations after us are worthless, lazy, good for nothing. So for 3,000 years, society has progressed, and as the generation ages and eventually ages out, they look at what's replacing them with scorn and resentment. And that stuck with me. It's something that so when I look at current music, I'd much rather listen to, Radiohead Creep, or Led Zeppelin, the Eagles by far. I was thrilled when I was able to see them in concert right, just a few months prior to Glenn Frey dying. I was disappointed with Red Hot Chili Peppers live in concert. Still like their songs because they have a good message in there. Was it hardcore, soft corn? And they were well ahead of the curve of identifying the pollution that's going on in our society. But I don't want to get caught up in that nostalgia. What I want to focus on is there is nothing that I don't listen to the radio. If I want to listen to music, I play the music, no matter how terrible or slow or painful it is. You've heard me peck out the keys on the piano, possibly. And if you have, you'll understand. Playing the piano is not natural for me at all. But I here lately, I haven't had the opportunity because my focus has been spread thin on items. But I had acquired enough elementary skill, basic skill, that I shared the notation pattern of how, to recognize what keys to be playing, and put it as a play along of a few of the songs that I had done. I had, the point is Clint Russell asked, how come people aren't writing new music? And I suspect they are, because you've got 5 Times August out there busting out great hits, all the time. There are others out there. You got High Res, that if you're into rap, he's busting out things all the time. There's a couple others. I can't recall the guy's name, but he's great for the jingles and the revamping of a song to make it into something more, like a parody of it. And if I can remember his name, I'll try to remember to put it in so that you all can take a listen if you haven't already discovered the guy. But there are people out there doing original stuff. At some point, perhaps I will, but at this point, it's more about honing the craft, and I'm very methodical in my process. I like to keep my focus limited so it stays sharp. My focus is on the chickens and the cats and my immediate surroundings, making my bed, emptying the cat litter, making sure the water and seed silos are clean and maintained for the various animals. There's some other projects I'm working on that require my focus, and there's only a limited time, and I'm aware of that, so I keep my focus on those projects so that I can get them accomplished and put the most amount of effort into them to make certain that I don't look back with, as these guys were talking about, with regret, because regret is just retrenching a negative thing in your mind, and when you're reinforcing a negative, that's what builds the habit, and I'm not interested in that. So my process is more methodical. I find the few things that need to be done. I have a circle. It's the right now, the immediate, and short-term, long-term. It's kind of a concentric circles. I need to eat. It's summertime now, and it's been kicking off 90 degrees, and I've been outside doing projects. So my focus is drinking 50 ounces of water in the morning, and again another 50 or more ounces of water when I'm back home at night. I do my best not to drink soda pop, but there's places where I'm at where that's really all there is. In the Pacific Northwest, a lot of the water is borderline toxic. I have a water meter, and whenever I do the tap water test, 200 is the tipping point. The tap water is consistent at 170 to 180. So it's borderline. 400 is lethal, 200 is not fit for human consumption, and I think it's a little higher than that. That makes it even unfit for animal consumption. So it's fairly effective to put out for random animals and my plants. If I had the resources, I would use filtered water for all of it. As it is, I keep the filtered water for myself and the animals, and use tap water for the garden. What I'm trying to describe, though, is the things that I keep focused, that I process it in a methodical order. It's I do the steps that I do in order to keep the train from being derailed. Doesn't mean it doesn't get derailed, it just means I have a process that I work through, and part of that process is keeping my focus tight. I've seen people be very scatterbrained. There's a couple individuals that I've known that I've called them out on it, that they're essentially, what they do is juggling a half dozen monkeys who are juggling a dozen plates and flaming swords, a mix or whatever. So the one guy is juggling a half dozen monkeys, and those half dozen monkeys are all juggling their own dozen items. And all it takes is one wrong turn, one wrong step, and it all comes seen it. And that is what I'm attempting to prevent and prepare for. It's keeping that focus tight so I can be able to correct if any kind of foundation is lost. It's been a little long on my opining, but this guy, uh, Legion of Men, Bo Reffick, mentioned him. It's the old man dropping gems. 5 things you should never tell anyone. Watch the video yourself. He's got the link in the description, most likely. I'm pretty much in full agreement with a lot of what's being said, and I encourage all of you to do that. Yeah. Use your litmus test to identify those that will betray you. Use your litmus test to identify those who are loyal. You're going to find out painfully. Yeah, it's not the people that you thought or would hope would be loyal. Find a process, find a system. A guy I know, Tony Zyglo, passed on a book to me. It dealt with identifying systems. Identify your system that helps you process the information and master that. And mine is, as I said, it's keeping my focus tight so that it stays sharp and limited, so I'm able to keep it methodical. Other people, they thrive in chaos. There's other styles, but I'm in agreement. Limit your circle of who it is that you share your dreams, your aspirations, your goals, your ambitions with. Do your litmus test as to how to identify these people. Walk away from those people that are going to sabotage you. If you can't walk away, at least limit your contact to them and what it is that you share with them.
I just worked hard for it. That's it. Worked hard as in I dedicated myself so I could at least learn at a level beyond the 99%. That's it, bro. That's the magic in this. Not skill, gift, a gap. How do you think this happened? Because I started working as a server. I was bartending. I tried to pick up chicks. I had to learn how to, game people. I was selling when I was doing remodeling and construction. I would do estimates for people. All this stuff, you bring all this together as an experience, and then it comes into this final product. Now YouTube is a career, you could call it. But what made the career successful was all the other experience that came about.
The gift, the gap. I was always teased about it growing up. And there are advantages to it. There's also drawbacks to it, which is the reason I've included the videos that I haven't, obviously I've let a lot of things slide here in the last couple months. The reason I was reading the Joe Navarro, What Everybody is Saying, made references to, what's her name? I believe it was Janine Driver, the ATF agent. Chase Hughes's behavioral table of elements. Paul Ekman, of course, the pioneer in microexpressions. I've incorporated the METT, microexpression training tutorials, into some of these videos that I put up there in an effort to help you identify, to build, to incorporate tools into your litmus test, as well as when you are socializing, you're able to pick up on these cues of what it is people want to hear more about or what they aren't interested in hearing. I use this as an example. That old show, Burn Notice. You ever come across somebody that you feel like you've instantly connected with? Well, it might be because, it's serendipity or synchronicity that you did find somebody that you click with, or maybe they're a spy and they put a bug in your car and learned everything about you. Do with that information as you please, but learning to read people's body language is, in essence, the same kind of ability. And you're able to gauge what it is that interests people. Jordan Maxwell talks about this often, and that is people are only going to spend time and money on things that are of interest and that is of value. He uses the idea of, if you're into country music, you're not going to spend money on a rap concert ticket and vice versa. You're going to spend money, if you like country music, you're going to spend money to buy that music or the tickets to that show. Same thing with movies, television, uses that example as religion. You only are going to participate in a religion which reinforces what it is you already believe. So that's what people want. They want that confirmation bias. We're all guilty of it on some level.
Other things I tried to do. I tried to sell houses. I even tried to do the door-to-door thing and sell. It wasn't the knives, but it was selling some other shit that I can't even remember. Dude, I tried everything. You have to try everything. And 99% of the shit I've tried failed. But it only takes that one time for it to succeed, and boom, blast off. Your life changes forever. Forever. You're on a different trajectory. That's why I tell people, like, being an entrepreneur, being your own boss is the greatest thing you'll possibly do for yourself. Believe me, if this guy could have done this much earlier, had he believed in himself, had started trying how to not listen to people, but sometimes it takes, for example, retirement, on your pension, bored, nothing to do, to just go, you know, fuck it, I'm just going to try, whatever. I've kind of always wanted to do this. And then it wildly becomes successful, and it changes your life completely.
I've always enjoyed going to the family dairy farm growing up. That was the highlight of summer vacation. And as I got older, I recognized that my experiences were unique. The dairy farm I went to had cows. They didn't have chickens. They had dogs. They might have had a cat, I don't know. But if they did, it stuck to the barn. Probably was just a stray. I don't recall. Bottom line is this. I saw firsthand being a farmer is very, very difficult, hard work. And here it is, 40-some years later, on a small scale, that's what I'm doing. I'm not a dairy farmer, but I've got my small chicken operation that's growing, and I've got my garden. This is the reason I and others encourage all of you to pursue your interest. You'll never know what it is. Last summer, went to the farmer's market, had a 3D printer, and attempted to sell novelty items, planter boxes, keychain fobs, a variety of other things. And I'll go into that in the future. But I made enough to pay for my space, and that was really about it. But was it a failure? Yeah, financially probably. But it was a learning experience in terms of gauging and interacting with people and learning what it was that they wanted a little more.
Everything is like that.
Told about it is a little bit of an idiot, then they're going to make fun of you.
Yeah.
They're going to squash your dream. You can't go to Japan. You don't have the money. You don't have the ability. You don't know how to get there. They put you down. A lot of people have put me down on my YouTube channels. Friends, you shouldn't be doing that. You can't do that. I don't care what they think. That's me. But a lot of people, that would be enough to discourage people from actually doing it. And that's not good either. So if you've got future plans or dreams or desires, go after them. Go after them, be quiet, and once you achieve those dreams, it's just wow.
And tying back to my aspirations of, simple farming, small-scale farming, I have no doubt that there's probably judgment out there of, see that crazy guy with that, repurposed Hollywood frames, with all those chickens and that smell and that and this, and whether that's going on or not, I have no idea, nor do I care. In fact, this is the first time I've ever really even given any voice to a possibility. Bottom line is, I just do the Shia LaBeouf, however you pronounce it, the meme from 10 years, 15 years ago. Just do it! It's funny to mock, but it's accurate. Just do it. Don't do something that's going to negatively impact somebody else's life, that's going to cause them harm, damage, whatever. But do that thing that you have been putting off because you have made excuses for it. Just do it. Write it down. Keep it to yourself. Learn more about it. And then start taking the steps necessary. make, when I describe the chickens, I describe it as my goal, and I've probably said this before, is change, the chicken math thing, to expand the chicken count and acquire goats. Get goat's milk, learn how to make cheese, learn how to use the eggs and the goat's milk to make eggnog, a goat's milk based ice cream perhaps. Anyway, there's a whole list of things that I'm considering. I've already experimented with making butter at home, ice cream at home. Cheese is something that I've looked into, but I don't have all of the materials that are necessary for that. Eggnog I made in middle school, high school, at home, and wasn't as impressed with it as I was at the eggnog you buy off the shelf. But as I've gotten older, I've recognized the reason is you got to use certain types of heavy whipping cream and stuff like that. The point is make your list of what it is you would like to achieve in 5 years, going back to Jordan Peterson's direction on that. Write it is what it is that you want to do in 5 years, and then over the course of the next 5 years, each year, what stepping stones need to be achieved, what milestones need to be to keep you on path. Then, for that first year, break down the steps for the 12 months. What are the things in those 12 months that have to be done? What learning, what resources, all of that need to be acquired. In my case, if I want to acquire goats, I will have to acquire another place that allows me to have goats to terrorize the ground and will accommodate their spring-loaded feet. So, that's something that I'm aware of, and that's something that I'm looking into. Your project is something completely different, and only you know what it is that needs to be explored to make it achievable. But that's what Dr. Peterson suggests, is have that 5-year plan, break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks, and then more immediate chunks, and then the right now, what can I do right now, each day, chunks. So there's the present, there's the immediate, there's the short term, there's the long term.
You win.
Exactly. Don't wait until it's too late, boys. Don't listen to the naysayers. And the biggest naysayer potentially could be you and your own brain. Sometimes people have downloaded such toxic programming of how to think, your mental framework, inherited from, toxic parents.
I don't know. There's certain words I hear, and toxic. Serge Jenkins, or however it's pronounced, the toxicity of the city, the self-righteous suicide song. I don't know. Whenever I hear toxic, that's what pops into my head. It's that music worm, or whatever they call it, the earworm thing. And it tells you just how out of date I am with music. Where my mental music maturity stopped growing. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. It stopped growing, that's why nobody likes it. Or maybe it is just bad. I have no idea. But whenever I hear toxic, that's what goes through my mind, is the toxicity of the city. My self-righteous suicide. Why'd you leave the keys on the table? Because I wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys on the table? Because I wanted to. Anyway.
Toxic friends, a toxic loved one. And that corrupted programming makes you hate yourself, makes you hate on your own potential, makes you doubt everything, all your dreams, and that's what stops people the most. Doubt. It's killed more dreams than any bullet or bomb ever has. I'm telling you. It's stopped millions of billions of people living in the world today, right now, do not live up to their potential because of that corrupted program. Anyways, that's stuff we talk about all the time in the private community, but we'll be going live, guys, actually. If you're seeing this video, we're probably live already at the end of this video if you've clicked on the channel, so excited to get that started today. We'll be talking about a couple different things. want to see his channel, My Retired Life, links in the description below. Give him a like, a follow, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care of yourselves.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Memes of the Week. The best thing you can do for this channel is smash the like button the way that female high school teachers smash their students, so this video reaches a wider audience. Also, before I get on with the memes, first a word from today's sponsor, the Book of Sims. Author, this dude has been on
A Biblical Guide to Love, Loss, and Learning from the Down Bad. Available right now on Amazon.
And now on with the memes. Number one, this dude has been on HRT for 2.5 years, and is still bad at taking selfies. Also looks like they then gained a mustache after transitioning. He went from being a fat undateable dude to being a fat undateable dud. At least the weight seems to have redistributed to the right places. I'm predicting in the future the insult to trans pipeline will be studied intensively by the AI historians. This individual's pronouns are now pounds and kilos. Moving on, remember Haley Welch. This is her after getting stressed out after her
Sandman has a side-by-side. The HowTo Haley Welch meme coin debacle lady. And on the left panel, and on the right panel, it's showing her what she would look like in the future, but it's Donald Trump's face with her bleached blonde hair, you know. So if you haven't seen his channel, hop over to Rumble and watch it, if only for his Memes of the Week number 490. That one alone is, that'll put a smile on your face.
Scam and rug pull. She finally spoke up about it and told her side of the story on a recent podcast, saying that she was stupid and got tricked by a bunch of men to put her name on it. Also that she has the IQ of a bag of Takis. Talk about now wanting to take accountability and playing the victims.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I was duped. I was a victim. When I talk about a litmus test, these are things you have to look for. Is the individuals that of whom you are interacting, are they accountable? A lot of people in our current environment, especially, will say, "Oh, women, women and accountability is like Superman or Supergirl and kryptonite." Whether that's true or not, don't base a don't base your reality on a generality. Use your own experiences to gauge that. Incorporate it into a litmus test. Test it multiple times. If it turns out to be true, keep fine-tuning it. If it turns out to be false, discard it. That's part of the reason for the body language instruction videos that I put out there for you, is we have to get past this level of poison if we're going to see any kind of development. There's a lot of legal overhaul that needs to be done, but if you cannot communicate, if you cannot be able to know when the representative or bureaucrat has lost interest. I was listening to a lecture, and I mentioned this previously, by Dr. Frank. He does election integrity, statistician research. He's a high school instructor, and he uses real-world examples of how to use statistics and mathematics in real life. And he came across anomalies. He was discussing these anomalies at a lecture a few days ago that I had attended. In attendance was a local county commissioner that I had emailed saying, hey, and I commend her because of the county commissioners, she was the only one in attendance, and she was taking notes. And there were certain other actions that I observed that shows a level of conscientiousness that I didn't expect to find, because I never met the individual before. She left before I had a chance to speak with her, and I had a desire to get back to take care of the chickens anyway. But I'd be curious to know what her opinion, the presentation, what it was. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. The point I was trying to make is that Dr. Frank was, using examples for real-world mathematics statistics, and that, oh yeah, I emailed this individual prior to. She responded saying that she would be interested in going. She was just waiting for a formal invitation, blah blah blah. So I was like, well, I've emailed you. I'm not the host, but connected to the group. But anyway, obviously she got her formal invitation or what it was that she needed to attend. But it's progress. It's something. It's doing. But I was able to observe her body language to see that she was taking notes, that she does do certain actions that are what people would put on the 5 traits, the 5 personality traits. One of those being conscientiousness. The other one is that she was attentive, but she was not caught up in the fervor. You know how you go to some lectures, they make the joke about the Amway presentations that everybody's hooping and hollering and cheering and excited to go out there and make those Amway connections for their downlinks, because that's the whole point of their operation is getting people underneath them to do the membership and blah 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 versus actual sales. But the people that go to those conventions, they're all pumped and excited. I'm not retired, not technically. The majority of people that were there she and I were of the younger set, which is sad because she's probably in her 40s, I'm in not somewhere in between that and retirement. And, but for retired folks, they were excited. But she was reserved, not in a bad way, almost as if she's analyzing it critically, taking notes to examine later and explore. So I'm curious to see and learn more as to the experience. But we've got to get to this point where overhauling the legal system has to be done, and in order to do that, you need to know when people are losing interest. And being meandering and losing my point helps lose someone's interest. So be aware of that if you do that. I attempt to do that. I attempt to keep it. I learned from, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. He wrote the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I know him personally. I've interacted with him personally multiple times over a few years when he lived up in Seattle. And I'm drawing a blank on his name. Anyway, just look up the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. He says it, brevity. Know what it is that is your point, and express it, and move on. Get the information you need, and move on.
And she went from HowTo to Hawk Trump. Number 3, this woman finally tells us the truth that most women claiming to be high value are not. They aren't creative, can't cook or clean, and aren't nurturing, intelligent, or have a feminine attitude. I sense no lies in this one. I would go one step further and say that most women are overweight or out of shape and still expect a fit guy with a six-pack. In the last couple of years, out of all the new corn I've seen out there, women in their late teens and 20s are all getting fat for some reason. The only ones that look good are the hourly rentals. Up next, the Ironheart trailer has received the most dislikes ever for an MCU show. When is this woke garbage going to stop? Are we really to believe that LaFonda here is smart enough to make an Iron Man suit when even Spider-Man, being a genius, still needed Tony Stark to make him the suits? I think that once AI movie making becomes a real thing, shows like this will be seen as the last dying gasp for the legacy media. It seems like every single Marvel project with a black gay or female lead has flopped. I still think that Robert Downey Jr. would make the best black Iron Man. Number 5, here's the choice as to blacks having to decide between if they're Egyptians that enslaved the Jews or if whites invented slavery and have to pay them reparations. I think we should let the Egyptians' wee-wuzzery continue, and whenever they try and bring it up, ask them why they enslaved the Israelites. The truth is that slavery existed with every race, yet it was the British that worked the hardest to end it, and yet everyone seems to have forgotten that fact. We still have slavery today. It's just called income tax. Moving on, this Disney movie with a $270 million budget has been crowned as one of the worst films of all time. Looks like Hollywood is going out with a whimper instead of a bang as artificial intelligence is about to put it out of business. I was really looking forward to the 2026 sequel. It's a real shame we won't be getting it. It would have been better if they had kept the original 7 dwarves and called it Snow Brown and the 7 pronouns instead. Number 7 in the film The Shawshank Redemption, there are only 2 female roles totaling about 10 seconds in a 2-hour, 22-minute film. The receptionist at the bank and Rita Hayworth. No wonder it was such an amazing film. Also, if you're ever in Ohio and have some free time, visit the Mansfield Reformatory, the prison where The Shawshank Redemption was filmed. If this was filmed today, half the prison guards would be female, and Morgan Freeman's character would be a trans man. Up next, the Wall Street Journal reports that more people are bringing their lunch to work.
There's a lot of criticism about movie adaptations of popular novels. I read, after seeing Hunt for Red October, at some point I finally read the Clancy novels, the original Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, without remorse, by far the best out of all of them. Some of All Fears, that was a slow burn, but it was good also. Man, I tell you what, talk about detail. It was a good introduction because it was, the Tom Clancy books were just heavy with minute detail. Impressive. Atlas Shrugged, another one that had a lot of nuanced detail in there. But Shawshank Redemption, I've tried reading Stephen King books, and I get a few pages in it, and it's just trash. Absolute trash. And I mean, if you like Stephen King, enjoy reading him. That's fine, whatever. I read his, I get 10 pages into his book, and I'm like, holy crap, this guy's got a freaking chip on his shoulder. Bad. And it's just every other sentence was negative. I mean, I understand as an author you're attempting to create a mood, create an atmosphere for your reader to understand what is being written, but it wasn't just that. It was his social and political commentary that was injected that was just garbage. Made it unbearable to keep reading. And I read the John Green book, Anthropocene or something like that. Oh, we're in the Anthropocene era. No, we're not. We're in the Holocene. The Pleistocene predated it. It's too soon to end the Holocene. The Holocene is essentially human dominance on the planet. Because it comes at the conclusion of the Ice Age, or right prior to the conclusion of the Ice Ages. Anyway, his book was nothing but fear-mongering. I read the entirety of that book because, as Patton said, screaming at Rommel across North Africa, I read your book. It's important to read the works of these other people, even if you don't agree with them, to learn how they think and operate. And this Green guy, the guy that puts on the VidCon thing every, I don't know if they still do it or not, but his whole life is based upon fear. Every decision that he had in there was based upon fear, insecurity. I don't know how somebody would function in a world with that level of anxiety and fear. It's just astounding. But he's done well for himself, so it obviously works to some degree for him. But movie adaptations, people will be like, oh, the book was better. Yeah, there's nuances that say, yeah, okay, Hunt for Red October or Patriot Games. The ending to Patriot Games, the movie was better than the book because it becomes this convoluted. They went to Annapolis to the Naval Academy, and the midshipmen joined in the fight against the Irish, Terry folks. So there was that. But with Shawshank Redemption, quality movie, great. Stephen King fan, and as a result, I've tried reading. You know, my adult child was a fan of Stephen King and enjoyed the books, but you know, Shawshank, Green Mile, great movies, but after trying to read the I can't even remember which book it was I tried reading, and I couldn't do it. It was too littered with just garbage. But movie adaptations aren't always bad. Sometimes they surpass the original because of certain elements being incorporated. And in this case, it's the dumping of the political social commentary from King, or it's the fine-tuning of the ending of Patriot Games.
which is a bad economic indicator. Of course, when fast food is no longer affordable. Plus, they'll be lucky to even have jobs in 5 years with the rise in artificial intelligence taking their work. It's $17 for a sandwich and $27 when you add chips, a soda, and a customary 30% tip. But it's just lunch. People are being charged theme park prices.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Burgerville, which is a Pacific Northwest staple, and when I say Pacific Northwest, I mean 100-mile radius of Portland, roughly, maybe of what's called Longview, Kelso, Southwest Washington, 100-mile radius. There is a Burgerville in Chehalis, Centralia, and I don't know how far south they go, but I know Hood River, I think, has a Burgerville, but there is no Burgerville west of St. Helens. Anyway, they're a Northwest staple, and they source everything from the Pacific Northwest. Idaho potatoes, Oregon beef, you know, berries for their seasonal milkshakes and other desserts. The point I want to bring up, though, is what's called a colossal burger, and you know, so a half-pound colossal burger and a large order of French fries with a drink is almost is over $23. It's absurd. For what reason am I going to pay $23 for one sandwich and fries when I can go home and eat chicken breast, which is far healthier for me to eat, and it's going to cost the same in fuel driving home to eat that? And yeah, it's beyond ridiculous. I mean, yes, I could bring it with me, but I don't want to eat a cold chicken breast. But if I had to, I would. You know, the point being is that the situation were different. That's what I would be doing. And you can't even get away with it with the kids' meal. Kids' meals are $8 roughly. You know, for a small drink, small French fry, and you know, single thin, you know, cardboard thin, you know, beef patty. Burgerville is phenomenal. One of the better quality fast food joints in existence. Their staff is very friendly. But the prices are out of control. And it's not just there. I went to Seaside, Oregon, and obtained a 500-watt wind turbine. And my buddy was with me, and we were going to get something to eat, so we got the 10 soft tacos in the box. And Seaside is, of course, on, you know, it's on the ocean, on the Oregon coast. It was over $30 for 10 soft tacos. And my buddy was like, "Huh, I can get that for $20, you know, so there's the markup of being on the coast, I presume. I don't know. I don't eat out anymore. I cook at home. It's a rarity for me to go out, and now when I do, I get sticker shock, but I try not to live in the negative of the sticker shock. I just plan, you know, make my plans and make my course corrections, my adjustments from that. And again, I'd much rather eat at home where I'm doing the cooking and I know what it is that I'm eating, or at least until you find out that you have to look at the label with a magnifying glass to find out if Alex Jones is right about cloned beef meat versus real beef. And speaking of which, later this month, in about 2 weeks, there is an animal auction to purchase, a full, you know, half a bovine, a full bovine, but anyway, it's being auctioned, and I'm curious to check out this auction. I don't know if I'll have time to do it. I don't have the resources, obviously, at this point to acquire a dairy cow or a goat, but I'm curious to get an idea of what are the prices, and not just for putting in the freezer for future consumption. That would be nice too. But my focus is more on acquiring the animals to do my projects that I've already discussed. Anyway, that was my commentary about fast food, because the prices have just gone astronomical, and I suspect it's a result of a lockdown nonsense, and I have a very difficult time continuing to support and reward institutions and organizations which profited off of fear-mongering, and continue to do so.
Number 9, here's probably what people can afford to pack for their work lunch. Cheetos mac and cheese.
Oh, wow.
Chemical and genetically modified goodness. Basically, it's dangerously cheesy. And you just know that that red dye color is definitely suspicious. Where's RFK Jr. when you really need him? It's probably okay if you're fine with getting super cancer. Not to mention I'd be dangerously heartburned and have skin flare-ups if I ate any of it. Moving on, the next time a liberal tells you that you need to let children be whatever they want to be, ask them if that also means that they can be conservatives if they choose. And then watch them have a meltdown. Liberals don't really believe in diversity. What they really believe in is control, and everyone thinking and acting the same way. You're free to be whoever you want so long as they approve of your choice. These days, more kids and teens want to be conservative than before because it's seen as being rebellious. Number 11, what would happen if Canada stopped all forms of immigration for 3 years? The boomers would lose money on their real estate, which is why it won't happen. The boomers voted Trudeau's government in for the 4th time, with Mark Carney as the new prime minister. And he led more immigrants into Canada in the first quarter of 2025 than were let in 2024. The government is going to build affordable housing, basically the projects for Zoomers and Gen Alpha, while the boomers get to keep on living in their suburban homes. Up next, is it true that kids didn't know how well they had it back in the past with gaming consoles in the 80s and 90s? If you have kids, take their tablets away and force them to play video games on consoles instead. At least that way they can learn hand-eye coordination and problem-solving skills. Many kids these days only watch others play video games instead of actually playing them themselves. These guys are playing N64 and notice how there are no girls present, and they're probably playing GoldenEye. This was how guys socialized. Number 13, this woman set her male friend on fire because he said that she should stay in the kitchen. She couldn't even cook him right. Look at the eyes in that rose ring. You just know that she would be great in bed until you woke up being roasted alive in the oven.
When I left my house, I gave away my Xbox 360. I kept my PlayStations, I think it was a 4 or 5, and I bought it solely because of the 3rd Batman Arkham game that was released. And I played it for a little while, but I prefer the Arkham Asylum and Arkham City more than Arkham Knight. And anyway, the console was stolen. And I'm not a big gamer. I remember back in the early 2000s, probably about 2004, 2005, my buddy had both a PlayStation and an Xbox. He let me borrow each one for 2 weeks each so I could test it out. And I decided that what I liked was the Xbox because I was, it had, everybody was in Halo at the time, and it was all right, but it wasn't my thing. But the Vice City was great. The Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was fantastic. What else was there? There were a few other games that I really did enjoy versus how that they either weren't available or they didn't play as well on the PlayStation. And then I got the 360. Had issues with it. had the ring of was it the ring of death, the red ring of death, or whatever they called it. Um, had to send it off, and it took what felt like forever to get it. Am I ever going to get this thing back? It took like a month, 6 weeks. They sent it back. It worked ever since then. And then when I left my house, I gave it away. Should have kept it, but it probably would have been stolen anyway. But there's times I look at it and I think, yeah, an N64 would be nice to get to play GoldenEye or the Star Wars Shadows of the Empire game. And that would probably be it that I'd be interested in. And the another Xbox that doesn't have the spying that would allow me to play all of the Batman Arkham games and the GTA Vice City, and those the games that I played off of the original Xbox and whatnot. There were some Buffy the Vampire games. There were, I believe, 2. Those were fun. You're running around staking vampires and whatnot. And the majority of the cast came in to reprise their roles, so you really felt as if you're getting a extra, not just an episode, but an extra storyline, an extra season almost, like a mid-season or half season. And it was great. It was a good game. It was fun. You got Spike, you got Giles and Xander in there doing their thing. And it wasn't as heavy with the womanist propaganda that the show had incorporated, but it was there in the show, but it wasn't outright overt. It was just there like everything else. But the game, it was more focused on, the little catchphrases. Here, little piggy piggy, calling out the vampires to come fight. Anyway, it was amusing. I'm not a big video game person, but the Knights of the Old Republic games and the Vice City game, the Batman Arkham game, those would be things that I'd want, and then a 64 for the Shadows of the Empire and GoldenEye. GoldenEye was fun. I never had a 64, but if somebody had one and let me play, I enjoyed playing GoldenEye. Partly because, number one, you could play as Bond and do all the missions. And number two, you could do the split screen, or I think you could change up your character. You could be oddball. The guy with the bowler cap, or maybe even Jaws. I can't remember. It's been 30 years, so I don't know. But it would have been fun. And then, the Australian woman, the one that set her friend on fire. Another example of misandry, because her sentence wasn't a sentence. It's ridiculous. And when I state that you got to learn body language to learn how to speak to people, to learn when they're losing interest and when you've acquired their interest, this is the reason. The legal system has to be overhauled. It's so that you know how to speak to these people, to overhaul the system, to get these crazy-eyed freaks the medical help that they need and their isolation from society to protect sanity from those who are just trying to live. Those words should not have been, those words that he said should not have resulted in a life-altering maiming that she doused upon him.
Because he didn't pleasure her just right. He was probably friend-zoned and thought that he could fix her. Women get mad with you when you're honest because most people lie to them, including other women. Moving on, back in April, black women lost almost 40,000 jobs in America, more than any other group, and it's because of companies' anti-DEI agendas. So this just proves that DEI was mostly black females. If you think that's bad, then just wait until AI replaces all their we-wasery. Companies are cutting their least productive workers first and are going into basic survival mode as the economy slows down. I think the overwhelming majority of black women wouldn't even have jobs if the government didn't hire them. So stunning and brave. Number 15, this mother of 4 who couldn't afford Christmas presents turned stuff only fools to buy her kids gifts. And I'm guessing now she won't be able to find another job or boyfriend ever again. And for what? A few $100s for some overpriced Chinese tchotchkes. The supply of simps is also not infinite, and soon AI will take all the simp bucks and give them autistic nerds in their mother's basements, creating AI-generated girls. All thanks, here's the difference when you buy Bitcoin and the price falls, versus when you buy it and the price goes up. This kind of reminds me of when that kid does something bad and your wife says your son is misbehaving. But when your kid does something great, the mom says, my son did that. So instead of it being our Bitcoin, she probably sees it as hers. And she wants to sell it and buy some of Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina-scented candles with the money. Even I had one ex call me after Bitcoin went up over 100,000. Number 17, this has to be the ugliest generation of movie actresses in Hollywood. This is what happens when you don't have Harvey Weinstein there at the helm to do the quality cooch control. And when the casting directors are all woke Karens, they're more interested in representation instead of talent and beauty. But we won't have to worry about this much longer.
Oh my God, he is absolutely correct. I don't know who these women are, but it's a profile of 16 women. It's a collage of 16, profiles, and the only one that would be of interest is, was it Jenna Ortega, the girl from the Wednesday Addams Family miniseries or Netflix thingy. The rest of them, yeah, no thanks.
In another 2 or 3 years, we'll be making our own films and television shows, and these twits will be in the dustbin of history. Moving on, a while back, there was a Facebook group where women would brag about their violence against men. Imagine what would happen if there was a group out there where men would brag about their domestic violence against women. The internet would explode. This is the radicalization of women. Yet the media only says that boys and men are being radicalized. Sounds like it's just projection to cover their own abhorrent behavior. But crime stats also show that women are way more violent towards children than men are. Number 19, here's what it's like living in Ontario, Canada. In the 1980s, your parents could get a decent-sized home for a couple $100,000. And today, that same home is 1.3 to 1.4 million. In part due to immigration, but also because of inflation. If you have to pay $1 million or $2 million, that usually means the minorities won't live in your neighborhood. But you'll still see them walking through your neighborhood enjoying the atmosphere, even though they don't live there. Probably trying to figure out which house they want once it's hockey mask time. Up next, speaking of immigration, this woman created a community for 30,000 Indian women in England. That's a lot of curry. But it's England and not New Delhi. They don't seem to want to assimilate and instead grow their own colonies in the United Kingdom. Looks to me like their community needs some diversity. How about some trans women? Imagine if white people created their own online communities. Imagine the backlash for minorities screaming that it's nothing but hate and racism. Number 21, here's more insanity in the UK. This article claims that London cyclists are too white, male, and middle class. How will they ever get rid of white cyclists? Besides, I already thought there was enough diversity with most being brown doing food delivery on cycles. My guess is that they'll give black and brown communities free bicycles to try and get them to use the bike lanes. In the end, it's not going to work. I'm thinking that there are so many more white cyclists because they wanted to get away from the diversity in the London Tube. Moving on, this German judge lets 8 men who raped a girl walk free, while convicting a 93-year-old German of being a guard in one of Mr. Mustache's camps during WW2. Older women like this are motivated to take pleasure from the degradation of younger women. They're competition for men.
Alright, Blaze Media, that's Glenn Beck's outfit. German judge lets 8 men who gang raped girl walk free. Presiding Judge Anne-Marie Gehring is in the picture, and then German court convicts former concentration camp guard, 93 years of age. The same judge, Anne-Marie, I thought it was Marie, Judge Anne Meyer Gehring. But the irony sitting in of the last name, alright? This is the judge who has a similar name as from that same time period of somebody who did bad things. It ends the start of a trial against 93-year-old German Bruno D., accused of being a SS guard involved in ending of thousands of prisoners, many of them of the Middle Eastern country that everybody gets upset about. Between August of 1944 and April 1945 in Stutthof, uh, that regime from a century ago, concentration camp near Gdansk, Poland, arrives for expecting his verdict in his trial in a Hamburg courtroom, Germany, July 23, 2020. So, this woman is a hypocrite. She is not a, how she's a presiding judge or a judge at all is a mockery of the system. She has a very, very unbalanced view of justice, and her application is evil. And I use that word a lot, but I don't know of another word that comes to mind that is descriptive enough. She's willing to let 8 men walk free for their atrocious real time in the sense of, it's within the lifetime of these individuals, our lifetime, presently. If you're hearing what I'm saying, you're probably old enough, your lifespan is most likely when the 8 men did this thing, versus all of us most likely are not anywhere near 90 years old. Some might, you might be approaching 70, but I'm willing to bet, granted, if you're the exception, don't take this as the wrong thing. I'm willing to bet the majority, if not all of you, are under 70. If you're the exception, my thumbs up to you. Thank you for checking out my chickens and listening to my opining. But this is inappropriate to have somebody on this level issuing edicts, so-called applying the law. It's unacceptable, because this is not the proper application of the law. It's not a proper adjudication of the law. This is Alice in Wonderland. Alice through the looking glass. That bizarro, twisty-turny, upside down, absurd, the absurdity. That's what this is. It's a mockery. They're making a mockery of things that have existed. It wasn't perfect. By no means was it perfect. But now it's just, I can't even say it's gutted. It's not even gutted. That would mean that there is some potential reason. When you clean an animal, it's usually for preparation for something, either to reuse as bait, or to eat, or both, or to clean the leather, or the skins for fur, or you get what I'm saying. But this isn't even a gutting of the legal system. This is a outright just. It's going to take generations to rebuild all of this. And this is, again, this is the reason you have to learn these body language things, so you know when people are losing interest and how to regain that interest, to start making inroads on overhauling the system, to restoring it into something better than what it was before that led to all of this absurdity.
And they want to hurt older men because they usually see them as competition for power and resources. Her last name is Goering. Sounds about right. Number 23, this Wayman asks, would you eat it after the gym? Women with faces that are 1s and 2s will do anything they can to attract the sexual attention of a chick.
Yeah, he's right. The face, not acceptable. And also, that's a submissive act. Change the focus of your life to be a leader, to be dominant. It doesn't matter if you're the so-called alpha or sigma. Those two character traits, those two personality traits are about taking care of the self. Doing the military training, one of the things that was instilled in me growing up was, oh, you need to be helpful to others. And yes, that's true to a degree. The military said, you're of no use if you can't save yourself first. You need to save yourself first, identify what needs to be done for yourself to be safe, then you can be of use to others. So set your direction to be successful for yourself, to lead for yourself. Even if you don't want to lead others, lead yourself. But never, never submit, always lead.
Compensating for a face that only her dog would love by getting fit. But I don't think this is going to work, and it looks like Dongo is going to have to do work overtime again. I'm also not 100% convinced this is even a female. Up next, here's some pictures that are supposed to make white men angry. If they replace the word angry with the word confused, then they might be onto something. These pictures of women with black men don't offend me, because I know it's the women that are going to be the ones paying the toll. They'll just be some more single moms with black eyes. These pictures are an instruction manual on how to make a single mother. Number 25 and the last one, this is the incompetent mayor of St. Louis. What happened to her? She looks like she ate one too many Joe Louis and drank some woke gender-bending Kool-Aid.
Look at some of these women. Look at what's her name? Jacinta Ardern, the former leader of New Zealand. The before and after pictures. She looks as if she were the posters for staying away from meth. So that was the New Zealand leader, Jacinta Ardern. Then you've got Lori Lightfoot. Everybody called her Beetlejuice. The Chicago mayor, Lori Lightfoot, before Brandon Johnson became mayor. I saw a picture of her before she was mayor. She was not as frightening looking. I didn't find her attractive, no matter what. But there was definitely a thing. It's like these are not the same. And this woman, St. Louis mayor, they don't have her name in the meme, but this is off of X. And her head has doubled in size. She's Victoria Nuland. Victoria Nuland was marginally presentable, and then she ate all the cookies she claimed to be giving to the Ukrainian protesters to overthrow the government there, 10, 15 years ago. This St. Louis mayor, same thing. Her head has doubled in size on the scale of Victoria Nuland. And then on top of it, she already had a short haircut. Then she went skinhead route, almost. The buzz cut, basic training cut. Crazy.
More importantly than that, when the tornadoes hit St. Louis, she forgot to push the tornado button so that the authorities would come to the aid of the city. She panicked and froze up, and I'm sure she'll blame her reaction on men somehow. So that's it for another Memes of the Week. Hit the PayPal subscribe.
Zoran Mamdani is dominating the press right now. The communist who has won the Democratic primary for mayor in New York City, America's greatest city. And many on the right are outraged because this guy's an overt communist. He goes on TV and outright says capitalism is bad and we need a better means of distributing wealth. And, I actually don't disagree that our wealth distribution is a big problem. Let me just start by saying, why is it that if I work 16 hours a day, I have to pay more in taxes? Now, that doesn't make sense, does it? As if you're making more money. Yeah, but listen. Let's say you work an 8-hour shift and you make $200. You pay taxes. And you say, I'm going to work an additional 8-hour shift to be productive. Now you're working even more per day, right? And what happens? You put yourself in a higher tax bracket, and you got to pay more in taxes. You get less the more work you do. So I'm actually going the other direction, but hey, we can agree on that. Now, Rep. Ogle says this guy should have his citizenship investigated because he may have lied on his citizenship forms as he held sympathies for Hamas. Why, he rapped 8 years ago that there was this group.
I want to point this out. This is, did we say who this was through? Independent. So the British newspaper, The Independent. Headline says, Republicans are calling on Trump to revoke Mamdani's citizenship and deport him. the subheadline, New York Young Republican Club and far-right Republicans demand his removal and the return of Red Scare-era McCarthyism. At this point in history, it is extraordinarily obvious that the infiltration of communists into all levels of society is akin to the Ra's al Ghul, plot of Batman Begins. A society that has become so corrupt that we've infiltrated every level, that's what they've done, and that's what McCarthy was attempting to root out. And there was such a public pushback, or not public pushback, but organized campaign of mass media pushback, publication, public, same root word. Those publications, those news outlets, those editorial outlets were unified in their pushback because they were already infiltrated. And they had the ear of the public because there was only ABC, CBS, NBC networks on the television news, and then the newspapers had already began to become consolidated. Now that's, what is it, the 5 or the 6 newspapers that are owned. Then, 100 years ago it was a few hundred different independent owners, which have become consolidated into the below, a number below 50. And I believe in the 50s, when McCarthy was doing those hearings, you had a more concentrated ownership of the news media. And it was already infiltrated. And I think that if somebody were to actually start doing genuine research into this, you would find out more that McCarthy was correct, and that he was being stonewalled and pushed back against by the propaganda and those people who were in control. The Citizen Kane, which was more powerful, the print media or the technology media, the radio, television media. I think I've got that in my library of movies. I need to watch that, but I think that was the gist of it, right? Citizen Kane. It was essentially a fictional version of supposed to be Hearst, the yellow journalism, sensationalism. That first pioneered, or maybe not pioneered, but profited off significantly. I don't know. I need to do some more reading on it, watch the movie before I start citing it as a good example. But that was my understanding, the plot line. Let me know if that's correct.
That they were his voice, and they should be freed, and this group apparently were funding Hamas. Okay, I don't know. Let me just put it this way. I don't care about these arguments of we can navigate the legal system. It is the stupidest thing in the world to me. All of it is the stupidest thing in the world. I feel like the actions of Democrats have shown they literally don't care about what is written on paper and what your laws are and why you have them. Laws, let me put it this way. The UK has an unwritten constitution. And what is a constitution? It is what constitutes the body politic, the people. Well, in the United States, because we had a bunch of different colonies, the founding fathers actually had a debate over this, and there was a group being all like, hey, no, you better write down. We want it written down. We want a contract. A written constitution saying...
Now keep in mind, there was the Declaration of Independence. There were other formation documents prior to that. There were documents afterward. Most notable was what we use currently, or what we're supposed to be using currently, and that's the Constitution. Prior to that, for about a decade, was the Articles of Confederation, which, after 10 years, they're like, yeah, this isn't working as well as we would hope. And so this has all been a vast experiment. And so, yeah, but read up on the Articles of Confederation. It's not applicable anymore because that's not what we're under, but it was very much stronger in the sense of protecting states and at least states' rights. I don't know so much about individual rights and liberties, but that is one of the strengths of the Constitution is the amendment process, which which is what led to its ratification, if I remember correct. That the amendment process allowed the introduction of the Bill of Rights, which is what caused the states to ratify it, because there was a certain amount of states that were holding out on it, and because of the amendment process and the promise of introducing the first, second, third, all the way through the 10th Amendment, the Bill of Rights, is what allowed them to say, okay, I don't like it, but I'll do it, to ratify it, because you need that 2/3 or 3/4, and I think Rhode Island was the last one to vote on it. I need to look that up. Revolutionary history and the immediate foundation of America. I've always been more interested in the Civil War to World War II eras of history. Those were the most transformative. That was the most transformative period. As I've gotten older, I found the founding and the Revolution and the founding to be worthy of research. It's not as exciting because it's more procedural, or it seems to be more procedural. You had the Mexican-American War in 1848 with Buchanan. You had, of course, the Civil War, with resulting in the Lincoln-Douglas face-off. There were other contenders that were going for president in 1860. In December of 1860, South Carolina did its secession, followed by a few other states, and then totaling in 11 seceding because of either geography or shared, shared interests, I guess. And then World War II because of the mass overhaul of American manufacturing and production and societal. Take your tools home with you, because all of the skilled laborers are overseas fighting. Putting women in the workforce and getting them to produce, and also to learn how to do their own home maintenance and repairs. And then of course the progressive era, which led to a lot of the problems we have now, whether it's the 19th Amendment, whether it's the 17th Amendment. The 18th Amendment was overturned with, what was it, the 21st Amendment, the Prohibition, and rescinding the Prohibition, the direct election of senators, the 16th Amendment. I think that's the income tax. But the progressive era taints even our present day over a century later. It was such a bad period in history of things happening So from 1845 onward to 1945, it's been much more interesting because there was so much change. The Panama Canal, acquisition of Cuba and Philippines, and then giving Cuba its independence, and later the Philippines its independence after World War II. It's more exciting, it's more interesting than what was the real achievement, and that was the Revolution, leading to the foundation of the American colonies becoming the American states. And but as I get older, I find it more important to know these foundations. I went so far as to read all of Washington's farewell address, which a lot of people cite, and it is on the Rumble channel, probably from a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's well worth listening to if you don't have time to read it yourself, but I would have recommended everybody read it. A lot of the information that is presented was as pertinent then as it is now.
Here's what you can and can't do. Here's how government works. Here's how it's going to play out. And I respect it. I do. But this idea that the Constitution has ever been upheld is laughably absurd. It just is. Now, I like the Constitution, but we're really talking about our current interpretation of what constitutes the body politic. That is, free speech is recent. The Second Amendment's only been around since 2010. Yeah, I know. People are like, what are you talking about, Tim? The Second Amendment's 1789. No. Actually, various jurisdictions were allowed to bar you from having weapons. The federal Constitution only restricted what the federal government could do. That meant that if you lived in Virginia, Virginia would say, we will ban your guns. The federal government can't ban your guns. Virginia can. And so what did we get? Up until 2008, with the Heller ruling, you actually had no right to keep and bear arms. And so the Supreme Court were like, nah, like...
One of the things that I found amazing about, individual liberties and rights and states' rights and federal, powers, I had lived in Virginia, and I had received a briefing having moved to Virginia, that even sitting on your porch drinking a beer was enough to get a drunken public citation. And the base introduction, the military introduction to the new assignment, I found fascinating, because having grown up in the Pacific Northwest, it's a lot more relaxed. And to live in an area that mandated that you're paying property tax on your vehicle, that you couldn't even be sitting on your own property drinking a can of beer. That was my first introduction to, what he's talking about. Yeah, there's federal law and there's state law. And having worked in the nuclear industry, there's the federal law that the NRC and Department of Energy, will send out their inspectors to see what policies are in existence to show how you're in compliance with that federal law. And that was something that I discussed after having left the industry, is with Oregon and Washington making it so that smoking marijuana was now legal, how could the private company enforce as a policy something that would, even though federally it's not recognized as permissible, it's just one of those curiosity things. And I don't care enough to, I'm not a marijuana smoker, but it is something that, because of the regulatory aspect of it, what is it, obviously the supremacy clause says federal law supersedes state law, but if that's the case, then how can something, as an example of Virginia, be able to limit one's right based off of, weapons ownership, but not when it comes to marijuana consumption? Anyway, all the dance moves, the choreography of, how to do the legal two-step. It's not interesting. It's very tedious, very tiresome.
The states can't be doing this because we've now interpreted the Constitution to apply above the states. Now, there's pros and there's cons to that, I guess. The states are supposed to be sovereign. But here we are. Here's the point. What we're dealing with right now in the United States is this guy is openly stating that with his cohorts, he will engage in seditious conspiracy against the American people in these United States, and there is nothing you can do to stop him, because they voted for him. So the question then is, can you vote to have someone break the law? Well, that's not really how our government is supposed to work. And if we agree on the structure at the very least, Congress would have to pass this legislation. But wait! Let me actually break it down for you. We'll start with Zoran's stated policies, which I've gone over many times, but here we are. He says Trump is tearing at the fabric of New York City in his second term. He has deployed ICE agents to pluck New Yorkers from their family. He has sent already high prices skyrocketing with tariffs. And he has threatened vital social services that working New Yorkers rely on every day. Zoran Mamdani will fight Trump's attempts to gouge the working class. I don't even know what that means. Like, what is Trump doing to specifically take money from people? And deliver a city where everyone can afford a dignified life. He'll ensure our immigrant New Yorkers are protected by strengthening our sanctuary city apparatus, getting eyes out of all city facilities, and ending any cooperation. increasing legal support, and protecting all personal data. He'll make NYC an LGBTQIA sanctuary. Let's ignore that last part and jump to his press release, where he explains what it is. Oh, I'm sorry, his memo on the policy. What is he going to do that I would say is sedition? Now, it's a fine line, and he's barely, he's just slightly over it, in my opinion. But crossing the line's crossing the line. Here's what he says. Eric Adams' collaboration with Trump now has ICE poised to enter Rikers Island. Stationing ICE agents on Rikers Island is not about making New York safer, but about tearing families apart and throwing our communities into disarray. The Mamdani administration will end this collaboration immediately and ensure all city-owned or city-leased facilities remain protected from Trump's deportation efforts. Hold on. So the question is, what does it mean that city-owned or leased facilities will be protected from Trump's deportation efforts?
As a side note, my friend was showing me the videos, the AI videos of alligator Alcatraz, where they use the vanilla ice baby as the backdrop, and it's the AI alligators with ice hats and jackets, bopping their heads to the music. And then another one was, I don't recall if it had background music or not, but instead of riding horses, they were riding alligators. He was so amused with it, and I got to admit, the ice, baby alligator, the video was funny, and then seeing the separate video of them, later in the day of the mounted posse on alligator backs was even funnier. So if you haven't seen that, look it up and give me your opinions on that. I'm not a big fan of authoritarianism, of tyranny, but I'm not a big fan of being invaded and pushed out of my home either. So, long time coming. But those videos I thought were good.
What does that mean? Now, he's dancing on the line of what I would describe as sedition. I have no problem saying it. I'll say it right now. If in any way Zone Ran and his administration obstruct ICE enforcement, I mean actually obstruct. I don't mean like not cooperate. I mean literally try to stop it from happening. He should be charged by the DOJ with sedition against the authority of the United States. And I can actually show you, we charge a lot of people with sedition right now, but nobody ever does, because this country is composed of weak men. And that's it. That's it. I don't know.